this is going to be your geoscope for the upcoming full moon in Aquarius, and that happens on the 3rd of August this year. So this is going to be quite an intense full moon, and the reason for that is because it's not only going to be in terms of the astrology, but also because of the Lionsgate portal, which is essentially the heliacal rising of Sirius with the sun at dawn from the latitudes of the kind of Tropic of Cancer, so around about where Egypt is situated, you know, on the planet. Now, you'll see that I've written a blog post on my website, and I've also done a specific I Ching divination specifically for this Lionsgate portal. So do bear that in mind when it comes to the 2 weeks that follow on from this particular full moon. You know, the waning cycle of the moon lasts for about 14 days. But the Lionsgate portal is open for around about, well, almost a similar period. So from the 26th of July through until around about the 12th of August, peaking, of course, on the 8th of August, which is the 8th month. So anyway, let's get into a reading and see what wants to come through. The other thing that I should probably mention is that I plan to redesign the cards that I'm currently using on these videos, because they're not that clear. Somebody asked me the other day if I would consider making cards to go with the eBook that I've developed, you know, the practical guide to geomancy. And you know, I think it's probably a good idea if I do a print version and then offer that to people as part of a kind of a bundle. But I'll keep you posted on that. I'm still busy redesigning the cards, so I'll keep you posted as to when that is available and let you know when you know, I'm taking orders. And also thank you to all those subscribers who are returning. Thank you for all your likes, shares and subscribes. I am truly grateful for your support. So yes, your comments and things don't go unnoticed. Right, let's give that one more shuffle, and then I think we're ready to cut the cards. Right, interesting. So you begin this particular full moon phase either feeling a little bit conflicted, so possibly a bit agitated, or it could be that you are keen, you're sort of really keen to start something new, you're kind of keen for a new beginning. But of course full moons tend to be about culminations and then endings, so this isn't really the best time to be starting anything new. And certainly given the, you know, the aspects that are around, there's some quite tricky oppositions between Mercury and 3 of the outer planets in Capricorn, as well as a Mars square to Jupiter. So this is Mars. This is Mars in Aries. So I think that Mars square to Jupiter is probably going to be counterproductive. So I wouldn't kind of start anything new at this time. Okay, so here in your 4th house we've got Puella, which is actually your planet and sign. It's Venus in Libra. Puella means girl, so this is boy, this is girl, and these two are essentially geomantic counterparts. So this is you know, Venus and Mars, so this is the sort of classic lovers pair. It's also, of course, love and strife, you know, in sort of the paradigm of Empedocles, the Greek philosopher. So it can be about kind of, you know, love and war and peace. So Puella here is, I suppose in a lot of ways it's about harmony in relationships. So it could be that you are redecorating, because Libra here can also be about beauty and symmetry, that kind of thing. Maybe you have bought some art to hang in your home, or you are kind of you know, repainting, remodeling, something of that ilk. Apparently there is a bit of a DIY revolution going on with everybody kind of stuck at home. So that wouldn't surprise me. You know, for Libra, it's very important to be in an environment that you know, reflects your love of kind of beauty and design. And I think Libra is one of those signs, much like Taurus, that can't stand to be in an environment where things are kind of clashing or off center, that kind of thing. So that could be how this is manifesting for you. It could also be that you're getting on well with family and relatives at the moment. So there's no, you know, that's always a good thing. So when it comes to one-to-one relationships, and these include important business partnerships, it seems as though you are either kind of negotiating a new contract, or perhaps a contract is kind of come up for renewal. That's one way that you could read Albus. Albus is white. It literally means white. So it's often symbolized by a blank sheet of paper. This is Mercury in Gemini energy. So it could be some kind of contract negotiations going on here. It could also be that when it comes to kind of long-term relationships, maybe you're clearing the slate, as it were. Maybe you've kind of finished you know, with a long-term relationship, or you're single and you're kind of keen to sort of press that reset button. Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to career, it seems as though you're feeling a little bit restricted. So it's possible that something hasn't worked out, or that there's been a limitation or an obstacle that's kind of been thrown up, or will be thrown up at this full moon. Sometimes it's where we're kind of being asked to up level. So it could be about mastering a skill, or kind of doing a little bit more to prove yourself. So it's not always necessarily bad, but it could be as well that you're deciding that the direction of travel that you've been heading in is a dead-end street, and you need to kind of take a new approach. But we'll find out more once I've done the geomantic conversions, so just bear with me while I do those, and I'll be back in a minute. Welcome back, Libra. As you can see, all the conversions have been done, so let's get into your reading. Now, the first thing to say is that full moon is going to be occurring in your 5th and your 11th houses. So these are the houses of kind of legacy, you could say. So on the one hand, this is about what we produce, you know, either through creative pursuits, basically through joy or passion. So it's either through creativity or some kind of activity that brings us a lot of joy that we really enjoy, or it could be passion. So it could literally be the fruits of, for example, a coming together of two people, you know, children, because this is also the house of lovers and of leisure activities. So this is a very Venusian house. And then the 11th house is the house of social connections, friendships, as well as professional associations or political kind of affiliated groups. So it's you know, those groups where we feel we belong with others, or we share certain values or goals in mind. So it could be, for example, charitable pursuits, you know, politics, etc. So this is where this is going to be happening, and the moon will be here in your 5th house, and the sun will be in the 11th. So the main focus is on the moon, which is here in the 5th, and here we've got Laitisha. Now, Laitisha is Jupiter in Pisces. So Laitisha is really about expansion, about joy, and about, you know, kind of getting that feeling of hope back, really, which I think at the moment is an absolutely rare commodity. So that's where your focus is going to be. Now, as I said at the beginning of the reading, it's like you are quite impatient to get something moving. We've got Puer here in the 1st house, and we've got it echoed several times. We've got it in the 2nd house, and we've got it in the 11th house, which is where the sun will be. And then we've also got it as the outcome of your reading. So I really feel that you are either feeling quite, you're kind of raring to go, you're impatient for something to start happening, you want to see momentum, or you are feeling annoyed or aggravated, or you are in conflict with someone or something. Now, it could be contractual, because we do have Albus here in your 7th house of agreements and contracts and you know, one-to-one relationships. And we've got Kase here in the 10th, which is about restrictions or impediments. So it could be that you know, some contractual arrangement hasn't worked out, or there's been a hiccup, or there's some kind of you know, something's been thrown up, possibly from the small print, or someone has not honored the agreement, and that may be why you're in dispute. But yeah, that's one kind of reading of this. The other way that we could read this is that you're kind of feeling as though there's a, you know, maybe there's a group activity that you've been involved with, you've been putting in some time and effort, and you don't feel that you're being appreciated. Perhaps there's been conflict within a sort of a group kind of collaboration of some kind. Perhaps you don't feel as though you're being appreciated because the second house is the house of value and worth, so it's self-worth as well as skills and abilities. So maybe you feel under-recognized, maybe you don't feel you're being paid what you're worth. But you know, if we look at this, would certainly you know, kind of reflect this 10th house, Kase, this Saturn in Capricorn energy, which is, as I say, it's a bit restrictive, and Saturn is of course in Capricorn at the moment because it's retrograde. So you know, that may be a recent development from the lunar eclipse when Saturn kind of moved back into Capricorn. And it would certainly explain why we've got Albus here, which, as I say, can be about negotiations, about trying to get clarity about papers, and, you know, restriction here. So maybe it's some kind of dispute about, you know, a labor dispute, for example. And that would explain why you're feeling so aggravated, because it's not like you, Libra. You know, you're normally a very peace-loving sign, and you find conflict distasteful. It's not really in your nature. So you have to be pretty kind of worked up about something to get, you know, to sort of get angry, or to feel that you have to assert your rights. But you know, if we go back to the full moon itself, this could also be about a new relationship. So it could be a love connection that's possibly developed out of a friendship, or kind of online dating, because this of course can be social networks, the digital environment. And you know, if so, you know, you're kind of keen for happiness, you're keen for things to kind of go somewhere, but maybe somebody else has other ideas. So that's another way that we could read this, and that may be why you are seeking clarity when it comes to you know, particularly romantic relationships. It may also explain why we've got conjunctio here in the 8th house, which is the house of intimacy and of coming together with others, you know, collaboration and harmony, which is also here, it's reflected here in your 3rd house of communication. So you know, maybe communication, you're waiting for communication to come in, possibly. You're wanting to hear from somebody, and they haven't been kind of obliging, or I don't know. All I know is that there does seem to be some tension here between you know, Laitisha, which is a very positive geomantic figure, and Puer, which tends to be considered malefic, you know, similar to in astrology where Saturn and Mars are considered to be malefics, and Venus and Jupiter are considered to be benefics, so lucky planets. Now, that aside, we've also got some other things going on that may be playing into, you know, what's kind of going on. For one thing, the Sun and the Moon will be making a T-square to Uranus in Taurus. Now, for Libras, that is the 8th house, so this brings us to what I was saying about conjuncture, wanting to work with others. Now, generally speaking, a T-square brings about tension, and Uranus tends to kind of cause kind of sudden breaks or cutting off. You know, this is sort of like the For me, it's the, you know, kind of the divorce planet. It brings about abrupt endings or abrupt beginnings. So it can be the planets of sort of shock and awe, shall we say. So it's possible that something hasn't worked out the way that you'd kind of envisaged, or you feel that somebody's not willing to play ball. Because it looks like you have great expectations here. You really want to sort of work with other people, you know, whether this is a creative collaboration or whether this is a new romantic relationship. But the other party doesn't seem to want to kind of play ball, and that may be why, you know, we've got this opposition here and this square kind of here. So that's something to bear in mind. But the geomantic figure itself, conjuncture, is suggesting that cooperation is a better way to go. Conjuncture means conjunction. It means literally union. So yeah, possibly you've kind of picked up on the attraction with somebody who is currently a friend, and you kind of hoping that things will expand and develop, but they either haven't seen it, or they for whatever reason are not really wanting to sort of engage at this time, and that could also be what's causing things to come to a head, basically. Now the other way this could work is that there could be a culmination happening here. It could be that you're finally realizing, or you're getting a lot of joy from a particular you know, creative endeavor, and so, you know, it might have caused sort of a lot of struggle, or it might have been sort of in the public domain, and now you're kind of taking back control, because Aquarius is a very independent sign. That could be another way that this is working, and it may also feed into whatever is happening here with the career, because if this is a creative endeavor, possibly there's been an element of something not working out in the public domain. So, you know, for example, maybe you were due to release an album, and the music company has suddenly thrown a spanner in the works, saying they don't like the single, or you know, there's a dispute about the cover of the CD, or whatever the case may be, and so it's caused a bit of a kind of eruption in the public domain, and maybe there's been a bit of a, you know, not a scandal, but there's been news of kind of like differences of opinion, creative differences, something of that ilk. So that's another way that this energy could work. Now I think adding to the problem here is an opposition between Mercury, which is in Cancer here in your 10th house, and several planets that are in Capricorn currently. So Mercury is due to make 3 oppositions before and after this particular full moon. The first is to Jupiter, the second is to Saturn, Pluto, and the third is to Saturn. So these are all sitting here in your 4th house. So it's almost as though there's a kind of a, again, it's calling for balance, or it's highlighting conflict, you know, kind of polarized agendas or differences of opinion, a kind of a pull, a conflict between the public domain and the private domain. And this can be between work and family, it can be between, you know, it can be a kind of work-life balance thing. It can also be about how much you want to sort of be in the public domain, and, you know, because this is the house of fame and fortune. Or it could simply be that you feel as though you're a little bit off track when it comes to, you know, your sole purpose. Maybe you feel like you've gone off piste a little bit here. But, you know, if we think about Cancer and Capricorn, these are signs concerned with authority. This is kind of the 2 parents of the zodiac. It's the mother, Cancer, and the father, Saturn. So it could also literally be that there is a need to sort of balance those sides within ourselves that we've kind of inherited from our parents. So this is the more paternal, and this is the more maternal kind of energy. But definitely that is a key theme during the first half of August, is this need to try and find balance between, you know, kind of heart and head, between kind of the mother and the father sides of us, and also between, for you, public and private domains, between domestic and kind of career. So that's something to think about too. And then the final aspect that's going to play into this full moon energy is that between Mars in Aries, so here in your 7th house, and Jupiter here in your 4th. So a square is the kind of aspect that's happening between these two. And when Mars and Jupiter are in negative aspect, it tends to create like the desire to, it creates impatience, it creates sort of kind of too much too soon kind of energy, where we can sometimes be a little bit impetuous. We can take risks that are perhaps not kind of thought through. It can sometimes lead to accidents, but it's just generally about rushing. So I think that if we consider that these are the two houses of relationships, this is family relationships, and this is committed long-term relationships, you know, and they could be business or romantic. I think what it's kind of saying is that there's a need to sort of take things a little bit slower, and that is, I think, what's kind of like going to be difficult for you, Libra. Or, you know, it may also be that because we've got Mars here now, this is Mars in Aries, Puer, so we've got a lot of this energy around. So, and remember I said that I didn't think that it was kind of natural for you to be taking on this energy, because it's almost your kind of counterpart energy. So it may well be that somebody else is kind of rushing you, or that you feel kind of rushed into making a decision. And as we know, Libra doesn't like to be rushed when it comes to making decisions. You like to take your time to weigh everything up before you come to a considered opinion, basically, which, you know, usually is a kind of a marriage of the two things. It's sort of the best of both worlds where possible. So it could be that somebody else is trying to rush you into making a decision, possibly something to do with a contract, wanting you to say sign on the dotted line, and you're not kind of ready. But I do think that this is more to do with relationships. So it could be, for example, that you know, in order to sort of fulfill your obligations to whoever this person is, you may need to move, for example. You may need to it may require some kind of expansion of the home, so like remodeling, maybe making your office bigger, or you know, if you've got a home office. Or it could mean literally a coming together of two families, because this can be marriage. So it could be that, you know, if you're kind of joining up with somebody else, perhaps there are children on both sides from previous relationships, and so, you know, it requires careful consideration to make sure that harmony is maintained in the home for all concerned. That may be something that's on your mind. But, you know, Albus here, I think, is calling for the opposite of Puer. So it's calling for detachment, as opposed to like, let's engage and let's get on with this kind of story. This is quite passionate energy. This is fire, and this is air energy. So I think it's saying, you know, there is a need to sort of like stop, think things through, to ask questions, to get clarity, and just to sort of take your time when it comes to making decisions or promises or signing contracts, that there's no need to rush into anything at this point. So that's something to bear in mind. But overall, you know, the outcome of your reading is positive. We've got Fortuna Major as the outcome of your reading. So I think what it's kind of saying is that you're kind of aware of this energy that's trying to rush you into making decisions, trying to sort of speed up momentum. But you're also realizing with Cauda Draconis here that something is not quite finished yet. There's a cycle that still kind of needs to close out first before, you know, new beginnings can kind of take place. And astrologically speaking anyway, it's never a good idea to start something at a full moon. Full moons are about culminations and endings, so it's far better to wait until the next new moon before you sort of start anything new. So I think maybe that's what it's saying, is don't sort of rush into anything, don't allow others to bulldoze you into anything. Wait until the next new moon, take your time, and this will end up being very, very beneficial. You know, because Fortuna Major is the sun in Leo, and isn't it interesting that we're in Leo season at the moment? So I think it's kind of saying, you know, trust your instinct, stand your ground. You know, Fortuna Major is in many ways about strength of character. It's not always necessarily about external success. It's usually about serendipity and kind of right timing, divine timing, or synchronicity. So I think it's really pointing to the fact that you are on some level aware of the fact that now is not really the time, that one mustn't rush these things, that everything will happen in the right time, and to just sort of go with that. So yes, I think your reading is no different in a way to many of the other readings that I've done already. It's definitely colored too by the Lionsgate portal energy. Now I have done a separate video on that, which I'll link at the end of this video, which you can kind of check out. But yes, I think just head up, chin up, and keep moving through this energy. I think that the first half of August is going to be a little bit of an uphill struggle, but then I think things will improve a little bit towards excuse me, the second half of the month. So excuse me, hang in there, and I'll catch you again in a couple of weeks for my new moon forecast.